Hi guys, welcome to We Are Tottenham TV. This is the instant match reaction to the Brighton and Hove Albion 3, Tottenham Hotspur 2 Premier League defeat at the Amex Stadium. If I sound somber, it's because that feels like a new low in a way under Ange Postecoglou. I've certainly not seen that under Ange Postecoglou. For any of you that didn't see it, Tottenham were 2-0 up at half-time, absolutely coasting. Should maybe have been 3 up. Brighton had made a couple of chances, but Tottenham were just all over it. And then just in the second half came out, complacent. And with Luke, he's watching it as well. I don't think you've got, I don't know what, is complacency too easy a word to use? Like, obviously, we said at half-time, whoever scores the next goal, will be all important. But Spurs conceded 2 in the first 10 minutes of the second half.
We played like we didn't expect Brighton to change. Right, they said they upped their intensity. Sub 45 minutes. I don't know if it's injury related or whatever, but they signalled their intent and they got us higher up the pitch. And you can look at it from a certain perspective, it's poor, but they've played that second half unbelievably well, and we didn't have the game management in the end. And I think that was that's the most frustrating thing. Subs coming on with hardly little time to make an impact.
The thing that amazes me about that performance is, you can lose goals and momentum can change, but this isn't the first time I've seen from Spurs under Postecoglou the reality of when something starts going wrong, an inability to then make a change or to put it right on the pitch. Yeah. They all kind of sunk into their shells a little bit. And it wasn't like the third goal from Brighton was the last kick of the game. The third goal was, I think, with about 25 minutes to go.
And that's what I said to you, there's moments like Romero's head down when a goal's conceded. There's nothing like, come on, forget about it. Maddison going off, it's like, oh God, why am I the one that's got to go off? Instead of getting under Mikey Moore, getting his shoulders and say, come on, you can do. We need that. We lack that leadership. It starts from Ange, obviously, but they got to do it on the pitch as well. And the first goal that sets the tone is just 2 wild swings with their right pegs. Van der Ven and Udogie, and there we go. We didn't recover.
Well, that's it. All 3 goals that you'd have to put down to individual errors. But I think Ange Postecoglou has to take a little bit of stick for this, because it really looked to me from watching him on the sidelines that he was like, you've got us into this mess. I'm going to leave you on the pitch to get us out of it. But they weren't. You could see at 2-1 that Brighton were about to score the second, and you could see at 2-2 that they were going to score the third. It was so obvious, and he needed to make changes then. Yeah. He needed to make changes then. Do something to make Brighton think, oh, we've got to face something different here.
It's just the problem is, and I touched upon it in the game, it's like that's probably arguably our best 11 out there. So when you tune up with your best 11, it goes, well, who can affect the game to the point where you've got to take someone off and someone's really like is nailed on, so he's going to change that game. Mikey Moore could be, but he's young. You can't put that pressure on him at that kind of occasion and say, go on, let's put all your hopes on Mikey Moore. It was one of them things. I don't think he really, for me, didn't manage the game well enough to know that Brighton were capable of doing that. I think it was almost if we thought, we've won that game now, get that third goal, bring Mikey Moore on, maybe Lancashire get a go, but that wasn't to be.
Spurs sit in 9th place, had an opportunity to go up to 6th. Brighton now in 6th with 12 points. Spurs 9th with 10 points. And honestly, at half-time, we were talking about the potential of this being a real statement victory and finally going into an international break on a victory and a win. And instead, it's just negativity, and this is going to come back to haunt Ange a little bit, because people are going to be wondering, they're going to be saying about Ange, it's all well and good saying, oh no, we just need to play, we play one way, and if we're playing badly, we just need to do it better. But in a game like that, where you're playing against a 31-year-old manager and he's tweaked it at half-time, you've got to make some tweaks to deal with that tweak, and he didn't. He just stood there shaking his head. Look, I'm not actually going to go back into the first half because it just feels like completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
Like, it's completely irrelevant how well we played in the first half at this point. So let's go into what happened in the second half. They scored in the 47th minute, a cross from Mitoma, who was causing us trouble from the earliest part of the game. Every time Mitoma got the ball, he caused us trouble. Outside of the boot, crosses, inside, crosses going in towards the keeper, crosses going out, and it was his cross that came from the left. Mickey van der Ven kind of runs from, he's a bit ahead of the ball and runs back and tries to slide in. And I thought as he's sliding in, tell you what, if he gets anything on that could be an own goal. Missed it, and as a result, Udogie's not expecting it to come to him, and he tries to hack it clear with his wrong foot. misses it, and it falls to Minter, who, of course, scores his first goal for his new club. That's 2-1. Then for the next few minutes, it just looked like they were going to score again. We got a chance from a short corner that came to Romero, a bit behind him. He had a free header, but it was behind him, so he wasn't able to get a header on target. Then in the 56th minute, Vicario has to make a save at the near post for Mitoma. And from that transition, Kulusevski had a chance breaking down the right, and his cross just was ahead of Solanke. Maybe if we could have scored a third then, it might have been a different game. But like I said, it just felt like it was inevitable what was going to happen. And that did then occur in the 57th minute. Jorginho Rutter was passed the ball through to him. He's in between, I think it was Udogie and Van der Ven in the back line. And all he has to do is take one touch out of his feet. No one's close enough to him. Gets a free shot on goal, bottom right-hand corner. Simple. Too simple. Can we use tiredness as an excuse? They were in Hungary late Thursday night.
As I said,
it wasn't a late game Thursday. It was the early game Thursday.
We also had enough personnel change for it not to be massive. The intensity that we had in the first half was brilliant. We saw Johnson chasing back. We saw Werner cutting off passes. We saw Kulusevski making a lot of runs. And I do think they burnt out starting. And I keep referring back to it. We've played all our cards effectively when we play that team. And the only changes really, and I think most Spurs fans will be honest with this, is to just see the game out from a winning position. As to make changes to go on and win that game. Late the subs, but...
So that was the second goal, making it 2-2 in the 57th minute. Then in the 61st minute, Mitoma was in on goal again. I think it was Van der Ven who managed to get back and block the shot. I've written down here in my notes, 61st minute, Spurs struggling. 65th minute, 3-2, Welbeck. Absolutely diabolical defending. Udogie was being... A throw-in came from Brighton. Udogie was marking his man as he's kind of backing into the box. And just... not strong enough in the 50-50, but then we get another bite of the cherry because the ball spews out towards the byline, and Bentancur at 2-2, when we've had 2 goals conceded, the fans are up, he's trying to let the ball.
I think he was more trying to brace for a tackle rather than actually dealing with a situation. I think he was more just like bracing for that impact turn and expecting to get hacked, and he's not dealt with the danger.
But what he's doing is he's trying to see the ball out for a goal kick. Yeah. But at that point, don't. I'm sorry, I know it's easy to say in hindsight, but don't. You've just conceded 2 goals in 10 minutes. The crowd are up, and the player, it's Rutter, I think, comes all the way through him and somehow dinks out across with a slide tackle. And who's there 3 yards out, totally free? Danny Welbeck. 3-2. 1 minute later, yellow card for Destiny Udogie, who at that point I've written he's having a nightmare. He didn't have a good game, Udogie. Kulusevski then gets booked for taking out Mitoma as he's running at him in the 68th minute. And this is now the period between the 65th minute. So what are we talking about? Talking about basically half an hour left, including added time, when we concede the third. And I said it, the only thing that's a positive at this point is it's not the last kick of the game. Yeah. Spurs have a chance to change it round. But basically, between the 65th minute and the 90th minute, all I've written is 71, Werner cuts in, shoots over the bar. I mean, at that point... everyone knows what's going to happen, but Werner might as well have a shot. 78th minute, Madders has a chance to find Werner, and this is what really worries me. He had a chance to put Werner in the left-hand channel in the box, where Werner could have then played the ball across the front of the box, and maybe Johnson would have run in the back post. But Madders doesn't want to pass it to Werner. I don't think he rates him. I don't think he believes in him.
I think it's easy to think a bit too much into that stage of the game. The fact is, with the management not having a plan for... I don't even conceding a goal, let alone being 3-2 down. There was just no idea from that point of how we dealt with that. And listen, this is the part where we have to be patient and understand that, as I say, we've dealt our cards, we put our best players in there for what we see, and there wasn't anyone to change the game. And once Brighton got in, was you ever confident really we was going to turn that around after that?
So then he brings on Basuma and Sarr for Bentancur and Werner. Their keeper gets booked for time wasting. The only kind of time we make the keeper do anything in that second half is the 82nd minute when Udogie found the ball come to his right foot just on the kind of in the D outside the box. And he actually gets a half decent shot on it, but it's not quite in the corner enough. And the keeper makes up for the mistake he made in the first half where he should have saved Maddison's goal for us for our second. And he makes a half decent one-handed save. We then bring Mikey Moore on for Maddison in the 84th minute. And between the 84th and the 90th minute, I've literally got nothing written down because Tottenham were spent and they had nothing. And I cannot tell you how far removed that second half was from the first half, where it looked like Brighton were basically intimidated by Spurs.
Even Solanke's involvement. He was so involved in getting on the ball and breaking up the play last. I don't remember that second half. I don't remember him even having much.
He was shot in the second half. He wasn't pressing in the same way, and none of them were. And whereas Brighton had made a tweak where they're pressing us when we've got the ball with Vicario and Van der Ven and Romero, and then they were also pressing the second line, so Bentancur wasn't able to get the ball in midfield. Kulusevski, whereas in the first half he had the freedom of the pitch, he only got that kind of space a couple of times in the second half. I mean, I'm just going to go through the team here. Vicario, I don't think he could have done anything about the goals. You know, nothing really to say. Didn't really have to make any saves, but just couldn't have saved the goals. Porro, I mean, I'll probably say this about a number of players, had a good first half. Didn't see him at all in the second half, Pedro Porro. Didn't get on the ball. I think they cut him out as an option, basically, Brighton. They stopped us getting the ball to Porro. They realised that he was... between him and Kulusevski and Johnson, they were suffering a lot.
But for someone, Matoma, for the game he had, I still don't look at Porro and go, he was shocking. I think Matoma was really good. I don't look at Porro as one of our worst players.
No, actually, I wasn't. I was literally only thinking about him when we had the ball. In terms of what he could have done against Matoma, I think maybe blocked a couple of crosses, got a bit closer, but then the danger is he's going to do you for pace. Look, Matoma, if he's on Spurs' list at all, then he put in an incredible audition today, but he will go to Chelsea for £110 million. That's for sure. Udogie, I hate to say it, I love him as a player. I think he had his worst game for Spurs
he
there.
looked a bit lost out there today.
I don't know if, you know, obviously he got an injury against United at Old Trafford last week, came off, didn't play in the week, didn't go to Hungary, and maybe we rushed him back a bit early there.
Yeah, he looked a bit unsure, shaky on the ball, his decision-making, sometimes in the areas he played it safe, being in position. Listen, he's a good player. He's off day. He's
a good player. Romero, I think, listen, a lot of people have been calling for Christian Romero to be the captain ahead of Sonny because they're like, Sonny isn't a leader on the pitch, he doesn't shout enough. Well, newsflash, nor does Romero. Yeah. Romero might go into every 50-50 like he wants to kill someone, but he is not a shouter and a screamer. And actually, this was one of the occasions where we needed someone to get into our players, and he was mute. Yeah. He wasn't up for it, really.
And it's in the committing himself sometimes. He lunges in too much.
Mickey van der Ven, obviously an air shot for that first goal. That was, you know, we just needed not to concede a goal in the first 10 minutes of that second half. And that was unfortunate. Bentancur, for me, nowhere really to be seen in that second half. Don't remember him getting involved at all. Same with Maddison. Kulusevski, like I said, had a couple of chances to run at the back line. Didn't pick out the final ball. I thought Werner will naturally get a lot of stick because of who he is, but he stretched the game and opened them up time and time again in the first half.
If you look at his effects on the game, the times he took his man on as well, his final product. Yeah. Again, but we know at the moment that confidence as much as anything. But I'm not looking at Werner again, and if he's made a scapegoat after this, I'll be surprised because there's 5 or 6 players there. That second half. Yeah.
Solanke looked tired second half, didn't press, and then Johnson. Do you know what? Like, there was a time at the back end of the second half where I said, "Is he still on the pitch?" Because I couldn't tell, and he was just.
They cut the supply to these players.
They did. They cut the supply, and look, this is what I'm going to say. Just trying to find some positivity. Yeah. The reality is, we cannot have it both ways, which is be so excited about the young talent that we have, and then expect it to all be perfect every time. Because when you've got so much young talent and you've got a young average age team, when it goes wrong, you don't have the experience on the pitch to turn it round. So it'll be very interesting to see what Postecoglou says in his post-match interviews, because he's got to be careful not to throw these kids under the bus here. I think Postecoglou needs to come out and take responsibility and say, you know, I should have made some earlier changes. Yeah. Look, you know, like, just, I hate to bang on about it, but just the fact that we never, ever looked like wrestling the initiative away from Brighton in that second half.
I just don't think enough respect was put on how Brighton were going to come out in that second half. It was almost like, right, keep going, same again. And they changed it, and that is as much as Brighton being good as it was us being bad, unfortunately. It's a bitter pill to swallow. But
how does this make you feel about the realities of where Tottenham can finish in the league this season? I think, you know, Europa League should absolutely be our priority, personally. I have to say, I've been thinking for the last few weeks that maybe we're the best of the rest after Liverpool, Arsenal and City, but you know, I'm having a very quick rethink about that, because we will be put under numerous things like this numerous times this season, where you have to fight back in adversity, and we don't seem to have that ability to suffer.
Yeah, for me personally, I said it right at the beginning, we're a top 8 in the mixed sides. Unfortunately, with the squad that we've got, and I keep going on like a broken record, but we've got a decent enough first 11, the starting 11. but not enough players who can impact a game when the going gets tough.
Yeah.
And that's our thin squad, and that's unfortunately how it is at the moment. And until we can get the players in, it's just this patience game. We're going to get the exciting football. We're going to get poorly managed games after that. That's where we're at, I think. That's the reality, and we saw that in the second half.
BHBH says, Ange can't teach Spurs detail, technique or discipline. He just has a big picture and his philosophy. Doesn't know how to execute. You know, like I said, Ange is going to take some heat for this.
Yeah.
What's your kind of big picture feeling with Ange Postecoglou?
Still fine. We have to go. We don't want to focus on the first 45 too much, but there were enough signs from that, and both people are right. People that get excited by that first 45 minutes, and the people that say, well, subs can be made earlier. Postecoglou needs to be able to change the game, I think we didn't show Brighton enough respect in that second half for how they were going to come out, and so you have to give credit at the end of the day for how they managed that second half, as much as we were frustrating.
Yeah. Keith Bridges says, mid-table this year, usual Tottenham, no consistency, can't defend. Embarrassing second half, need to look at teams that defend well, dare I say, but could learn from our neighbours. Well, one thing I would say about Ange Postecoglou, which I do find quite interesting, is, you know, obviously Arsenal, Man City under Guardiola and Arsenal under Arteta have been inverting their fullbacks for the last few seasons. But what both of those teams have also done is started playing 4 centre-halves quite often across their back line and just been like, okay, we're going to just make it incredibly difficult for teams to score and trust that the rest of the players will do it. Whereas Ange seems absolutely wedded to the idea that we're going to defend with basically 2 at all times.
And that's the problem with the intensity. We can't keep it up. That's when people say about players look tired. It's that intensity. I can't explain how much they put into that, for all the tracking back, all the running, getting up there, creating the chances, the overloads. That eventually comes back and bites you on the arse.
And it doesn't. And it is a familiar pattern that Spurs around 55 to 60 minutes do drop off about 40% in terms of their intensity.
That's it.
Yeah, not good. Not good. I don't know what to say to you guys, really. Thank you so much for watching the watch-along. This has been the Instant Match Reaction. We will be doing a post-match fan show. I've got to say, I'm not looking forward to it one little bit. That will be on a separate feed. We'll be starting that in about 15 minutes' time. Not a good day for Tottenham Hotspur whatsoever, and it looked so promising at half-time. But I have to say, guys, when you're a Tottenham fan, you've been a Tottenham fan for 30 years like I have, I couldn't say at half-time that I was confident. I literally said, you know, look, we played beautifully, but I'm too experienced not to think that something could be round the corner. And by God, was it round the corner, conceding 2 in the first 10, 15 minutes and then conceding the third before the 65th minute and not even laying a glove on a Brighton team who had their best striker out, their best centre-half out. And Luke made a good point. We looked absolutely spent, fatigued, knackered and abject. A really, really bad day at the office in that second half. And look, haven't heard anything from Postecoglou yet, but it'll be fascinating to hear what he says, and we'll be coming back with you with those quotes for you during the post-match fan show. Make sure you get your calls in if you want to speak to us. If you want to rant, if you want to tell us what you think the problems are, call into that fan show. The details how will be in the chat and in the community box, and hopefully speak to a few of you then. It's hard to say it, but come on, you Spurs.